let's talk about Sam, shall we?
Okay.
So first of all, that suit, man. I mean, we had a couple words about it, but like, and like you said, like we see that right away, and like I love that first shot we really get of it when he throws the shield like at the window, and you just for like a second see it there, and you see like the star on his chest, and I was like, yes, they did it. You know, that was my reaction to. What was your reaction to like seeing it initially the first time there?
So the entire week leading up to the episode, I tried my best to not be on social media at all because I was really worried. I was really worried someone was going to spoil it for me. And right around episode 2 or 3, there was a leaked toy reveal. That sort of showed what the suit was going to look like. And I didn't even mean to see it. I was just on Twitter and, you know, boom, hey, here's the toy that got released overseas. And I was like, oh, man, you know, so I was worried that it wasn't going to be as impactful and it wasn't going to be as cool to me. And then in the week leading up to the finale, I want to say Thursday morning, a clip leaked of a trailer that showed the suit. It showed that exact scene. And I was like, well, you know, this kind of takes away from it for me as well. But when it happened, it didn't. Man, I was elated.
Nice.
It was like 3:10 a.m. in the morning here, man, and I was on the sofa like, yes, this is it. This is what we've been waiting for.
Yeah, so, that's right. Yeah, I stay up on Thursday nights to watch it too, but for me, I'm on the West Coast, so it's not quite as late or early.
Yeah,
I guess
it's like 11 o'clock for you, 12 o'clock.
Yeah, 12 o'clock. Yeah, but yeah. I mean, like for me too, I was like, it was a thrilling moment too, you know, because I think part of it is also that you know, I always had this feeling that Sam was like the natural person to take up the mantle of Captain America, you know, after Steve goes away, right? And so, I mean, on one hand, you know, you also have Steve giving him the shield, and you get a sense that like this is sort of the right sort of like passing of the torch in a way. I mean, they're different people, obviously. And that's something else I want to talk about in a minute, but like, but yeah, it was exciting, and then like also like the way he used the suit through like the whole episode was really cool because like, first of all, he's got the wings, and presumably the whole thing's made out of vibranium, right? So it's
whole thing,
it's
I would
like
imagine.
Super tough, and like I thought it was so cool how he used the shield, right? Like, because we got that great, like, training montage of him, like, flipping through the air and, like, practicing catching it and stuff. I'm like, damn, like, I could never do that. But, you know, I especially love that shot where he's coming at the helicopter. And that was so funny after he comes up out of the water and he's like, boy, you just deserve this ass whooping or whatever he said. That made me laugh so much. But then he, like, throws it at the door. It bounces back. He grabs it and he, like, pushes that guy out. That was, like, one of the coolest things. Coolest action beats in the episode. Like, were you also like, what did you think about like all the stuff he was doing with his suit and his shield and everything?
So it excites me because he just got these wings, right? And he just got this shield. So going forward, we can expect for him to become even more elusive, even more effective with the shield. And then it also, you know, for people that like to dive a little bit deeper into the fandom, it makes you wonder, you know, like during the time they spent away, you know, if Steve was teaching them stuff. I'm sure this is something that's been on Steve's mind for a long time. So in that time where they were fugitives, maybe Steve was teaching them stuff. Now, granted, they didn't have the shield. I want to say they didn't have the shield when they were fugitives. But maybe, you know, Steve already had in the back of his mind that, hey, you know, this is the guy that's one day going to take my mantle. So the training montage and all that stuff, I just remember watching it thinking like, where did he learn all these moves from? You know, we've never seen Anthony Mackie move. We never seen him move like this before. And I thought it was very cool that they just didn't show this normal guy picking up the shield and okay, now I can throw the shield. I can do all of these crazy moves. I love that they showed him sort of struggling with it.
Yeah. I got a good chuckle out of that one shot where he throws it and it kind of like whiffs into the tree and bounces off. It was like, it made you feel like, yeah, this is sort of a regular guy figuring it out, you know? And one of the things I've said about Sam before is like, I feel like out of all the Avengers, he might be the guy who's like the most like regular guy. in a way.
The most regular guy by far. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing regular about Natasha Romanoff, and not Clint either. Whatever happened
Sam
in Budapest.
has exceptional qualities. Don't get me wrong, but in terms of like his life,
he's normal. He's a very normal person. Basically. Yeah. Yeah. And they drove that home further with this show, just showing him back home with his family and showing how people around him react to him. Like, he's just Sam. He's just Uncle Sam. He's not a super soldier. He doesn't have extreme combat skills. But for what his fighting style is, I think that they really showed throughout the season how it's just kind of grown. Because like you said, with the scene with the shield and the sort of knocking the guy out and just flying through the window, man, that's top notch stuff. That was great. I mean, that's like summer movie level like action sequence right there. Like it wasn't like just some like let's save on the budget for TV action scene. So yeah, that was really cool. Okay, so with Sam, like too, like I was wondering throughout the course of this show, I was like, when he gets to the end and he does have the shield, because like, God, I wanted him to get that shield back, and like I think a lot of other people did too. Like I was really wondering, like at the end of this, is he actually going to be like the first one to call himself Captain America, or is that going to be like somebody says it and he's like doesn't say no? Like I just wondered like what level of like how strongly he was going to embrace it. Yeah. And maybe I should have seen it coming that he was going to do it to this level, but like I found it to be cathartic in a way when he finally what was it? He's like walking by and he says somebody says something to him, and then he goes, I'm Captain America. The guy goes, "Who are you?" And he's like, "I'm Captain America." And he says it really matter of factly, like, "Bro, you don't see this shield, you don't see the star on my chest, you didn't see what I just did."
Yeah. And then it was funny when the guy goes, "I thought Captain America was on the moon."
Yeah,
that joke coming back, But I thought it was cool that he did get to the point where he was truly embracing it, you know. And I still think that it wasn't, I got the impression that it's not exactly like it was easy for him. And he kind of mentioned that a little bit in his speech, right? But like, I think he decided, I want to get your impression on this, but like, I think he decided that he felt like he needed to do this, and that he was to a place where he could like accept the responsibility of it. So what are your thoughts on like him coming to this place of acceptance and embracing the title of Captain America?
So that's a really good question. I don't think he accepted the mantle on the terms he would have at the start of the show. And so what I mean by that is that when we come into the show, so Sam's a combat veteran, he's in the military, he did 2 tours. He lost his friend Riley. And even, in Captain America, the Winter Soldier, we see him come back and he's still giving back to the people. He's giving back to people like himself. He's doing the support groups, he meets Steve. So I feel like since Captain America, the Winter Soldier, we've seen him kind of go on this journey where, he's a countryman. And he's getting to see all these ugly aspects of the country that he's fought so long to defend, right? And as a superhero, as somebody that goes through the Sokovia Accords on the opposing side, and then as a black man, which is what the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show sort of really honed in on with the Isaiah Bradley angle. So if he had taken the mantle in episode 1, I feel like he would have said it differently in his spirit, like, I'm Captain America, like I am basically the next iteration of Steve Rogers. But for us to go through the journey from episode 1 to him saying in episode 6, he's saying, I am Captain America, but I am aware of all of the things that have transpired for me to get here. I feel like it was a little bit hard of a decision. Because that one-on-one with him and Isaiah Bradley, where Isaiah Bradley's telling him all the things that happened to him, and he's like, no self-respecting black man would ever pick up that shield. Like, you can kind of see Sam die a little bit inside, because I think at that moment he wanted to do it. And even the scene with like him and Bucky in the middle of the street, like where they're arguing, the cops pull up and they have that whole interaction take place. So in episode 6, when he finally does take up the mantle, I feel like they had really earned that moment. It seemed really
Yeah.
powerful. It seemed like a lot of thought had gone into it. And I think what finally made the decision for him or helped him with that decision was the conversation that him and Sarah had, back at home in New Orleans, where she's saying, hey, like, you're going to let another man make a decision for you. And, Sam kind of tells her, like, hey, he has every right to feel the way he feels.
Yeah.
But at the same time, why would I not do this when I fought for it? So it was awesome. It was
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. I feel like it. If he had taken up the shield in the first episode and been like, "All right, here we go," I'm
Yeah.
Captain. It wouldn't have been as realistic. It wouldn't have
The
rang quite as
fandom
true.
wouldn't have gotten behind it, I don't think. There's no way
Yeah.
you have him do that and then show us the Carl Lumley, Isaiah Bradley character. There's no way you do that.
Right. I
so.
mean, I think they use this show to really show us. I think a lot of the audience might have been in like Bucky's shoes in a sense,
Yeah.
in that, like,
Yeah.
'cause remember that conversation where they're like playing frisbee with it or in the backyard or whatever, and Bucky hands it back to him after he catches it, and he's like, when Steve told me about the shield and what he was going to do with it, I don't think either of us understood what that really would mean for you to take it up,
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
sorry, and like, I think that the course of like him getting to that understanding was like a lot of the audience was probably along with
Yep.
that. You
Yep.
know what I mean? And like, I have to say, like, I don't think that I had been able to think through every little like thing like that Sam had to consider and like how it
Yeah.
was affecting him and stuff, and so I think that this show did such a good job of taking us along with Sam on that journey.
Yes.
And kind of like laying out, I don't know if the argument on both sides is the right way to put it, but like just sort of like laying out the situation and like what the considerations are and like how that affected everybody. And so like the different sides of that was like Isaiah was also like Bucky, and like what, like him thinking about how Steve gave it to him, and then like Sam's feelings about it, and then you have John Walker, which is sort of like the establishment's answer to it, maybe.
Yeah.
Right. And so like all these things sort of interplaying together, and then you have over it all Sam's journey of like sort of coming to this acceptance of it, and then like this is what he's got to do. Like I remember after they took the shield from Walker, right, when Sam is there cradling the shield after Bucky like throws it down to him.
Yeah.
He's like trying to wipe off the blood and it doesn't come off, and he's like, that was like an emotional moment for him.
Yes. Yeah.
And frankly, it was an
Yeah.
emotional moment for me because this show has done a really good job of that.
Yeah.
And B, like, I think I've been a fan of Captain America since, Chris Evans did such a good job with that role. And like, I actually, I've told other people this, like, when I first heard they were going to make a Captain America movie before they made that first one, I didn't think it could work.
No.
I was maybe a little pessimistic, but somehow they made that character work, right, and all that stuff. And I just thought, I thought the world of like Steve in particular, and so maybe partially that's why this show had a lot of resonance for me. But like seeing Sam go through this whole journey has just been like really effective, and I think. And this is another thing I wanted to ask you. Like, so I've talked about how I think one of the things the MCU in general does really well is it uses this like emotional realism, like to kind of ground like all this crazy comic book stuff. And that's one of the things that I think keys people into like all this MCU stuff so well. And then particularly when we're talking about this show, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like, you can imagine like a corny version of this show.
Yeah.
Where maybe he
Yeah.
picks up the shield right away, or maybe it's just more about the action, or whatever you can say. But like, what do you think about this idea that like the emotional realism is what really brings it home and makes it work, particularly for like this show?
Yeah, so I mean that's what Marvel has consistently done so well, right? And if somebody wants to see an example of what you mean by how good intentions, wanting to do something similar can come off corny. Just watch some of the CW DC shows, right? And I love those shows. I love those shows. But you can watch some of those shows, not naming any shows in particular, and you can see that there's something that they really want to get into emotionally, right? They really want to get into it. They really want to get in depth with it, but they just don't have the time to do it. They're working on a 30 to 45 minute time span, and you just don't have that ability. So the masterful filmmaking and what they've been able to do with all of their stuff, using this show as a prime example, is great. Because I mean, the levity it takes in a scene to be able to show John Walker and Bucky and Sam, all fighting, and doing their whole thing, and to have that emotional moment of John Walker dealing with his loss, and then saying, okay, let's go to work, and them to have that big powerful fight, and then Bucky picks up the shield after they've knocked him out. He kind of drops it, next to Sam, and he's like, hey, here, we just had to do all of this for you, because of a decision you made, right? But then for
that
2
look
episodes,
on his face to me, when Bucky dropped the shield, he was like, "Don't let this happen again, bro."
Yes,
basically.
Yep. So look at the journey from that moment to Bucky telling him, and that at that later point, like, hey, you know what? I didn't understand what you were gonna deal with. I didn't understand that there were nuances to this, so I'm sorry. But then in the very next scene, you got Torres, kind of giving jabs at Bucky, so I really love the way that this show could be very, very serious, and on a dime's notice be very, very funny. I think that takes really I think it takes really masterful filmmaking to be able to do that, to earn it, and for the fans to pick up on it too.
Yeah, the writing and every aspect of the production, I think they did like a super job. So, okay, so do you have anything else to say specifically about Sam and his journey before we move on to the next big topic?
I think what I will say is just that I'm really looking forward. I don't know if outside of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, if we never get this show, say we get WandaVision and they go straight to Loki, I don't know if anybody cares too much for the Falcon character going into the next phase, because they're getting ready to introduce all of these other great people. We're going to be getting She-Hulk. We're going to be getting, She-Hulk. We're getting Kamala Khan. We just got all the characters that WandaVision brought in. So I think for them to cap his journey like this, I'm really interested to see if he's going to be a leader of sorts in the next big group we get.
That's interesting, because what's the next big team up movie going to be, right? They haven't announced that, right? So
they haven't announced it.
Yeah, it kind of depends. I have heard that the next Captain Marvel movie is going to be similar to like Civil War, in the sense that you have a whole bunch of people coming. It's like, Avengers Light, maybe, kind of a thing. But we'll see.
Yep.
Okay, so next,